the Spitballers, today on Sunday Baseball.
Hey sports fans, it's Sunday Baseball with Indy
Last week, when we were talking about rookie pitchers who won 20 games, I mentioned Rust Ford and the Emery ball. Now, the Emery ball was banned in 1915, and it got me thinking about banned pitches. When you think about banned pitches, the first pitch you think of is the spitball. So today's episode is dedicated to all the noble practitioners of the lost art of the spitball. But first, click the subscribe button to get Sunday Baseball each and every Sunday. All right. The Spitballers. Now, it's hard to say just who invented the spitball, though it seems like Bobby Matthews was using one as far back as the 1870s. But the first pitcher that we know that used one pretty much exclusively was Elmer Stricklet.
According to who?
According to Elmer Stricklet.
Well, he would say that.
Well, it doesn't mean it's not true. Stricklet's career was fairly undistinguished. He spent 3 seasons in the major leagues and never had a winning record. But it is distinguished for who he taught the spitball to. Now, in 1905, the spitball became a huge craze all across America because of what Jack Chesbro did in 1904. Chesbro learned to control the spitter from Stricklet, and in 1904 he put it in his arsenal and went from being a star pitcher to being an absolute... In 1904, Happy Jack Chesbro went 41-12 with a 1.82 ERA. He started 51 games and completed 48 of them, including his first 30 in a row, for a total of 454 innings pitched. In early September, he won his 30th game before anyone else in the league had even won their 20th, and he single-handedly kept New York in the race for the pennant until the very last day of the season, when his wild pitch allowed Boston to score the pennant-winning run and branded Chesbro forever as a... Here's something for all you stat nerds out there. While Chesbro was making history in 1904, teammate Willie Keeler was finishing second in the batting race to Napoleon Lajoie, and at the time, they had the 2 highest career batting averages in history. Yes, indeed. Back to Chesbro and his 454 innings pitched in one friggin' season. That kind of workload can only do one thing to your arm, and Chesbro began to have all kinds of arm problems and never again approached his 1904 greatness. But the spitball became a huge fad that lasted in baseball for most of the next 20 years. The problem with the spitball is that it's really hard to control, so while a lot of pitchers experimented with it, very few were able to effectively use it. However, there was one other pitcher that Elmer Stricklet managed to teach the control of the spitball to. In spring training in 1904 with the White Sox, Stricklet taught the spitball to his roommate, a pitcher named Ed Walsh.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Ed.
Ed who?
Adorable. That's what this guy is. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Walsh.
Walsh who?
Well, should I just keep it to myself?
Thank you, Swedish Knock Knock Girl. And while I cannot say for certain how adorable Big Ed was, he certainly did not lack for ego, because it was once said of him that he could strut while standing still. His ego may have been entirely justified because Walsh was the first great career spitballer, dominating AL pitching for half a decade. His 1.82 career ERA is still the best all time, and almost 1/5 of his career starts were shutouts. Funny that the only 40-game winners since the pitching distance was moved to its present distance in 1893 were both spitballers.
Wouldn't think so.
So there were a bunch of spitballers around for the next decade and a half until the pitch was banned in 1920. Now, there were several reasons why it was banned, but one of the big ones was that Ray Chapman, Cleveland Indians' star shortstop, was killed by a pitch by submarine spitballer Carl Mays in August 1920. Existing spitballers were allowed to keep throwing the pitch till they retired. There were 17 pitchers that were allowed to keep throwing spitballs, including Hall of Famers Burleigh Grimes, Red Faber, and Stan Kovaleski, and Dutch Leonard, who is still the only player ever to have an ERA of below 1 in more than 150 innings pitched, and Urban Shocker, who every season won the I Have a Silly Name But It's Kind of Cool award.
And then there were no more spitballers.
Except that we know that that's not true. There have been many spitballers since the pitch was banned. In the 1950s, Preacher Rowe, in his 30s, put up marks of 22-3, 11-2, and 11-3 once he added the spitball to his repertoire. Gaylord Perry is probably the most famous practitioner of the spitball the last half century. Now, he said that what he would do was put Vaseline on his zipper because he figured the umpires would never look there. Don Drysdale, Whitey Ford, and Don Sutton are also all connected with the spitball. A funny thing about Sutton, he was once asked if he ever put a foreign substance on the baseball, and he said, "Not true. Vaseline's made right here in the United States. But spitballs have become rarer and rarer. You see, it's one thing to have a camera following you once or twice a game, like say Drysdale in the 60s. It's another thing to have a camera, or 20 cameras, or the entire television and internet world following your every move on the mound. And with the arrival of pitches like the split-fingered fastball, which basically does what a spitball does, but is legal, it's just not really worth the effort.
Bye-bye, spitball.
Although this happened just last month.
Could you be a bit more obvious?
I don't think so, Larry. Although this may just be the beginning of a whole new generation of Chesbros and Walshes. I sure hope so. That's it for this week, but we'll see you next week on Sunday Baseball. Click the subscribe button to get Sunday Baseball each and every Sunday. But first, click the subscribe button to get Sunday Baseball each and every Sunday. For more cool baseball trivia and history, follow Sunday Baseball on Twitter.